There was a time when kids looked to the sky and thought about careers in science and aviation. But these days, there is a lot of competition for their attention. JetBlue created the JetBlue Foundation to encourage a diverse group of young people to get involved and is working with the community to improve STEM education. Joining us now is the president of the JetBlue Foundation, Joanna Geraghty, and pilot Linda Sollars. And for full disclosure, I do have business relationships in the airline industry. Thanks, both of you, for joining us.
Thank you.
Joanna, I want to start with you. What role does corporations have in getting out STEM education in science, technology, engineering, and math?
Sure. I mean, our future is so predicated upon making sure the next generation is well educated in those areas. And right now, when you look at the rates of students who pursue careers in, for example, pilots, it's relatively low. And then when you look at underrepresented communities, it's even lower. The national average for female and minority pilots is less than 5%. For mechanics, it's 1.6% and dropping. So when you think about how you spark an interest in getting a student to pursue a career in aviation or aircraft manufacturing, we all in the industry play a really large role in making sure that future pipeline is big with lots of talented students.
JetBlue obviously has a major role to play on Long Island as well, and the museum out there.
Yes, absolutely.
Are you finding that it is difficult to get kids' attention, to bring them out to these events?
It's not hard to get their attention. I think the question is, why do you lose their attention as they get older? And so the JetBlue Foundation is very focused on how do you really catch them early, but then keep them interested throughout their careers. We're looking at trying to touch 5,000 students in 5 years. And selfishly, the foundation is about making the industry for JetBlue stronger, so our pipeline is strong. So when you think about that goal, I mean, it's really in everybody's best interest to make sure we have kids that aren't just interested in, when they're 5 or 6 years old, in building Legos and how a plane flies, but also as they graduate high school pursuing a career as a technician or a pilot.
Linda, the numbers are really staggering. Less than 5% of pilots are women. It's one of the industries where women have never really broken through. Tell us about your story when you started to fly in the 70s.
Well, wanted to fly from a very young age, and in the 70s when I was in high school, the high school counselor told me I couldn't because I was a girl and gave me a stewardess application instead. I found as I got on in the 80s that wasn't necessarily the case. It was the go-go 80s. I did a master's in finance, but started to fly while I was in college, and enjoyed a decade-long career as a private pilot, flying for the fun of it and enjoying my career, and then decided to have someone else pay for the gas in the 90s and swapped over to airline
But
pilots.
isn't part of the problem with the industry is when somebody like you, when a woman or when a minority walks into a school, they do not see people who look like them?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
I mean, you want a role model. You want somebody that has a similar background that you can relate to. And so, you know, at JetBlue, we provide a lot of different mentorship opportunities for students. We have a gateway program that reaches into colleges and even high schools to try to help students navigate the educational opportunities, but also how you actually pursue a career out of these schools into the airline industry.
The industry itself, though, hasn't been the best actor when it comes to careers, right? Because there have been very difficult times for the industry, and if you want to be a pilot, you hear about layoffs and you hear about furloughs, and we all know people who go through training programs and then are told to go home.
So JetBlue is very different in that regard. You know, I definitely agree. The industry has been plagued with labor challenges throughout the years, with furloughs and people being told when it's convenient that, you know, come back and see us in a few years. We'll maintain your seniority level, but we won't pay you for the time off. At JetBlue, we have a no furlough policy. So we've actually never laid off a crew member at JetBlue because of an economic downturn. It's something we think differentiates JetBlue from the rest of the industry, but also it makes our crew members much more committed to our culture and to delivering the best experience that we think exists in the sky.
When you talk to kids, what did they ask you about this business?
Well, actually, I was just did a talk with some high school students this morning, some homeschool students, and their questions were very good. It was about how to get involved, what the day was like, just sort of getting a feel for the various aspects of the industry, piloting, mechanics. There's so many things you can do. I've been in leadership.
What's interesting is the industry is really the crossroads of technology and science and physics, things that don't change, physics and the leapfrogs of technology, which should attract kids, but I imagine the science scares some of them off.
Well, but it also can motivate them. You know, there's a lot of kids. I've done some work flying kids with the Experimental Aircraft Association when they're young, and it really helps, and I followed with them, and it motivates them to pay attention to the math and to pay attention to the science when they can get a taste for the excitement of the flight or the maintenance or things along those lines.
I think when you look at some of the organizations that we support, Central Aerospace Academy down in Polk County, Florida, the graduation rates in Polk County are relatively low compared to the rest of the nation. They have a series of schools that are vocational in nature, career academies, they call them. JetBlue has given a grant to help build a airframe and power plant licensing aspect for the high school down there. These students, when they join these more vocational focused schools, to Linda's point, it sparks their interest. They see a future.
I was going to ask about vocation-focused schools, because in this country we've moved away from vocation schools, haven't we? And while corporations can only do so much, the education system has not been pushing STEM and has not been pushing vocation schools. And how do we change that? How is JetBlue involved in helping to change the education process?
Sure. I mean, Aviation High School in New York City produces more licensed technicians than any other school in the United States, and it's a high school. We have nearly 100 crew members at JetBlue that graduated from Aviation High School. We support Aviation High School as a corporation through Pencil, but also through grants. And so, you know, I think it's a multidimensional approach. You have graduates that support it, you have corporations that support it, you show that there's a higher graduation rate if students are interested in the subject matter that they're focusing on. So I think, you know, yes, there's been a shift away, but there's still such opportunity to reach a demographic of students that might not be reached through some of the more traditional educational efforts.
Okay. Thank you both. Joanna Geraghty and Linda Sollars, thank you so much for coming in. Fascinating topic.
Thank you for having us.